In the perilous skies of World War II, one British aircraft emerged as a true jack-of-all-trades, defying the conventional wisdom that specialized planes were the key to victory. Thanks to its unique design, the Fairey Firefly, a versatile warbird that refused to be boxed into a single role, would leave its mark on conflicts far beyond the war that birthed it. From the frigid waters of the North Sea to the sweltering jungles of Malaya, the Firefly adapted and excelled where others faltered. This unassuming fighter-bomber became the Swiss Army knife of naval aviation, taking on roles its designers could scarcely have imagined. But the Firefly's story doesn't end with Japan's surrender. Its remarkable flexibility would see it fighting communist insurgents in Southeast Asia, dive-bombing ships in Korea, and even finding homes in navies and air forces across the globe long after newer, faster jets had come to dominate the skies. The Fairey Firefly was an aircraft that refused to be obsolete, a warbird that could truly do it all. The story of the Fairey Firefly began in 1938. As the specter of war loomed over Europe, the British Air Ministry, acutely aware of Nazi Germany's expansionist ambitions, set about bolstering Britain's aerial defenses. They issued specifications for two types of naval fighters: a turret fighter with guns in a rotating turret behind the pilot, and a more conventional fighter. Both were required to achieve speeds of 275 knots, or 316 miles per hour, at 15,000 feet, with the conventional fighter expected to carry a substantial armament of either 8 303-inch Browning machine guns or 4 20mm Hispano cannons. As the political situation deteriorated, so did the specifications evolve. By 1939, the turret fighter concept had been abandoned, and focus shifted to both single and dual-seat fighters, capable of reaching 330 and 300 knots, or 380 and 350 miles per hour, respectively. Several manufacturers sent proposals. Among them, Fairey Aviation, specialists in naval aircraft, offered designs that could work with both seating configurations, powered by the Rolls-Royce Griffin engine. With war now underway, the need for extended navigation over open waters ultimately tipped the scales in favor of a two-seater design. Further changes to the Air Ministry's requirement culminated in Specification N540. This aircraft was intended to replace Fairey's most recent naval fighter, the Fulmar, which was still under development, but already seen as only a short-term solution to Britain's naval aviation needs. Under the leadership of H.E. Chaplin, Fairey's design team set to work, using the Fulmar as a starting point for what would become the Firefly. By June 1940, with Britain left standing as the Allies' last hope in Europe, there was no time to waste. The Admiralty was sufficiently impressed by Fairey's efforts. They took a big leap and ordered 200 planes before even seeing one in the air. Of these, the first 3 were designated as prototypes. Like the Fulmar, the Firefly was a low-wing cantilever monoplane featuring an oval-section metal semi-monocoque fuselage. This tried-and-tested design offered a balance between structural integrity and weight reduction, crucial for carrier-based aircraft. The conventional tail unit with a forward-placed tailplane enhanced stability during carrier landings, a critical consideration for naval operations. However, while the Fulmar featured upward-folding wings, the Firefly's wings folded inwards along the sides of the fuselage. When extended, the wings were hydraulically locked in place. Notably, the design included square wingtips and sizable Fairey-Youngman flaps, which ensured good low-speed handling, a vital trait for an aircraft that needed to land on a moving ship. The Firefly had a retractable main undercarriage, with a retractable arrestor hook under the rear fuselage, as did the Fulmar, though the Firefly's undercarriage was more widely set in order to provide greater stability on the pitching deck of an aircraft carrier during landings. The Firefly's dual cockpit layout was similar to that of the Fulmar, specifically designed with naval operations in mind. The pilot's position above the wing's leading edge and the observer's location after the trailing edge provided excellent visibility for both flying and landing, especially important during carrier approaches and deck operations. Both crew members were equipped with separate jettisonable canopies, enhancing survivability in emergency situations. However, where the Rolls-Royce Merlin 8 engine powered the Fulmar, the Firefly was given the more robust Rolls-Royce Griffin 2B, capable of generating an impressive 1,735 horsepower. This drove a 4-blade Rotal-built propeller and was cooled by a large chin-mounted radiator, which somewhat increased drag, but was necessary to manage the heat generated by the powerful engine in various combat scenarios. This power plant was chosen in order to allow the Firefly to maintain performance while carrying its substantial armament, the 420mm Hispano cannons located in its wings, considered heavy firepower for its time. The cannons would give the aircraft significant punch in both air-to-air and air-to-ground roles, enhancing the versatility it would become famous for. While they also contributed to the Firefly being 4,000 pounds heavier than the Fulmar, the aircraft's improved aerodynamics and more powerful engine were designed to allow the Firefly to reach significantly faster speeds. It was still slower and had a lower service ceiling than many contemporary single-seat fighters, such as the Spitfire 12, but the trade-off was a more versatile aircraft, capable of performing a variety of roles. The first Firefly prototype took to the skies on December 22, 1941, piloted by Fairey's chief test pilot Chris Standeland. A former fighter pilot and successful car and motorcycle racing driver, Standeland gave positive feedback on the prototype. However, a tragedy struck on June 26, 1942, when he was lost while flying the second prototype, likely due to a failure in the tail unit or elevators. Despite this sad setback, development continued, with the third prototype performing its maiden flight on August 26th. In the spring of 1943, carrier landing trials began, revealing the need for improvements in cockpit stability during landings. These modifications were incorporated into the production models. By October 1943, after addressing various technical challenges, the Firefly was cleared for active service. Subsequent technical evaluations revealed that while it might not excel as a daytime fighter, it showed great potential as a long-range escort fighter and night fighter, setting the stage for the diverse combat applications it would see throughout its career. The Firefly made its combat debut with No. 1770 Squadron at the Fleet Air Arm in July 1944, deployed aboard HMS Indefatigable. Its first major operation was an attack on the German battleship Tirpitz in Norway. The Firefly spearheaded the assault, diving in to neutralize Tirpitz's anti-aircraft guns. Although dense German smoke thwarted the overall attack, this mission highlighted the Firefly's versatility in combat situations. Throughout the remainder of 1944, Firefly squadrons continued operations along the Norwegian coast, escorting mine layers and striking coastal targets, as well as further raids on Tirpitz. These missions demonstrated the aircraft's ability to perform both escort and attack roles effectively. By the dawn of 1945, the Firefly's theater of operations had shifted to the Far East. No. 1770 Squadron, now based in Ceylon, joined fleet carriers for attacks on oil refineries in Sumatra. Here, the Fireflies proved their worth, not only in attacking anti-aircraft batteries, but also in air-to-air combat, claiming victories in dramatic dogfights against Japanese Oscar and Tojo fighters, again displaying their versatility. The Firefly's finest hour came during the final months of the war. As part of the British Pacific Fleet, it participated in attacks on the Sakashima Gunto Islands, preventing Japanese aircraft from reaching Okinawa. The Firefly suppressed anti-aircraft defenses, while other aircraft struck airfields, a testament to their effectiveness in combined operations. Notably, the Fairey Firefly earned the distinction of being the first British designed and built aircraft to overfly Tokyo, and also participated in the final British combat sortie of the war, attacking Kizurazu Airfield on August 15, 1945, the same day that Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, effectively bringing the conflict to an end. Over the following days, Fireflies found themselves in another new role when they would transition to humanitarian missions, locating POW camps and dropping supplies. These duties were over by mid-September, and the Firefly squadrons were disbanded and returned to Britain via Australia. However, the end of World War II did not signal the end of the Firefly's service. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter that would see the aircraft adapt to an ever-changing world. In 1948, Fireflies transitioned to peacekeeping roles, conducting armed reconnaissance patrols in Palestine as the British mandate ended. When the communist uprising known as the Malayan Emergency began the same year, Fireflies were deployed from both land bases and carriers to conduct strikes against rebel positions in the dense jungle. In June 1950, North Korea stormed into South Korea. Britain was part of the United Nations command force sent to repel the invasion, and the Firefly found itself thrust back into full-scale conflict. From the Korean War's opening days to its conclusion in 1953, Fireflies were at the forefront of Britain's naval aviation operations. Initially deployed aboard HMS Triumph, Fireflies participated in the first British sortie over Korea on July 3, 1950, attacking Haeju Airfield. As the conflict progressed, the Firefly once more showed that it could perform a wide variety of functions, carrying out anti-submarine patrols, conducting armed reconnaissance along the Korean coast, and providing crucial air support during the Incheon landings in September 1950. Throughout the war, Fireflies operated from a succession of British and Commonwealth carriers, including HMS Theseus, HMS Glory, and HMAS Sydney. As newer variants like the FR-5 entered service, the Firefly's ground attack capabilities were enhanced. Armed with rockets and bombs, these aircraft proved highly effective in striking enemy positions and supporting UN ground forces. The Firefly's final combat sortie of the Korean War came on July 27, 1953, the day the armistice was signed. Having served from the first day of the conflict to its last, the Firefly had proven its enduring value and adaptability in yet another major conflict. The Firefly's success in various roles throughout World War II and the Korean War was made possible by its continuous evolution. As new challenges arose, the aircraft was adapted and improved, resulting in a series of variants that expanded its capabilities far beyond its original design. The initial production models were the F Mark I fighter and the F Mark I fighter reconnaissance variants. The need for carrier-based night fighters led to the development of the NF Mark II, featuring a slightly longer fuselage to accommodate airborne interception radar. This was followed by the NF Mark I, which proved more successful and saw wider use. While the Mark III, powered by a Griffin 61 engine, never entered production, the Mark IV became an important step in the Firefly's evolution. It featured the more powerful 2,330 horsepower Griffin 72 engine, significantly enhancing performance. The Mark V series represented a major advancement in the Firefly's design. It included the FR Mark V fighter reconnaissance variant, the NF Mark V night fighter version, and the AS Mark V anti-submarine warfare or ASW variant, equipped with American sonobuoys. The AS Mark VI had British ASW equipment to replace its cannon armament. The AS Mark VII saw further refinements for the anti-submarine role and could carry 2 crew members in a revised rear cockpit. These variants were valuable assets in the early Cold War era, when the threat of Soviet submarines was a major concern for Western navies. Throughout its career, several Firefly variants were developed for specialized roles, including various training configurations, target tug variants, and even unmanned target drones. Each variant represented an adaptation to new operational needs. This constant evolution allowed the Firefly to remain relevant, long after many of its contemporaries had been retired. The Firefly's reputation for reliability and versatility led to its adoption by several other nations, extending its reach across the globe. It soon found its way into the navies of Canada, India, and the Netherlands, and the air forces of Denmark and Ethiopia, while Australia and Thailand featured Fireflies in both their navy and air force, as well as target tug use by Swedish civilian operator Svensk Flygtjänst AB. In Dutch service, Fireflies continued to see action well into the 1960s. During the conflict over Dutch New Guinea in 1962, Dutch Fireflies conducted their final combat operations, striking Indonesian infiltrators and once again demonstrating the aircraft's remarkable longevity. When the Royal Thai Air Force finally withdrew their last Fireflies in 1966, 23 years after the aircraft had first entered service in Britain, it marked the end of a long and highly varied career. The Fairey Firefly stands as a testament to the ingenuity of British aviation engineering and the adaptability of its crews. From its origins as a fleet reconnaissance fighter in World War II, it evolved to meet the challenges of the early Cold War era, serving in roles its designers could scarcely have imagined. Bridging the gap between the propeller age and the jet era, the Firefly proved that a well-designed aircraft could adapt to changing tactical and strategic requirements. Today, a handful of Fireflies survive in museums and private collections around the world. These examples serve as a reminder of an aircraft that truly could do it all, from fighter to strike aircraft, from reconnaissance platform to submarine hunter, guaranteeing the Fairey Firefly its place in aviation history.